Yes, indeed, folks. You are listening to Blue Please right here on CynicalBrit.com with myself, Total Biscuit. Now, before I go on, I would like to remind people that a very cool charity event is currently going on. It's called the Worst Games of All Time Marathon in aid of Charity Water, which is one of my personal favourite charities, i.e. they're a charity that actually does something worthwhile. I keep coming back to this point, but I think that it does need to be repeated. It definitely bears repeating that as great as the work of people like, say, Child's Play is, I think that stopping children in, say, third world countries from dying from lack of water, or indeed from having dirty water, is a little more important and vital. So, the website is game2aid.org. That's game2aid, all as one word, .org. And if you click on the Marathons button, or indeed, I think if you just click on the home button, you should see it right there. Yeah, indeed, it's all embedded via Justin TV. They're currently playing a game called Gods and Generals, which is absolutely appalling. Oh, God. I think they were also then playing Shaq Fu, which is an absolutely atrocious game. I'm not sure if Desert Bus is involved, but whatever the case, they are continuing this for another 22 hours. Please go and help them out. Their goal is $10,000. Actually, I think I just got a couple of donations through the website, so how about I send those directly over to them? So, whoever sent me in donations over the last couple of days, it's now going to charity, folks, and if you don't like that, then you're an evil, evil man. It's PayPaling that over right now. So yeah, please go and check that out. Go and help them out. As I say, the goal's $10,000. They're currently at $5,000. Should be very easy to raise the rest of this, so go for it. Right! Okay, folks. Okay. We are looking at a particular subject, a particular topic. I'd say it's very close to my heart. If it was, I would be very upset. It's kind of like, you know the way Iron Man works? Yeah? You're aware of this, I believe. The shards of shrapnel in his body kept away from his heart by the magnet. This is close to my heart in that way. As in, if it got any closer, I would probably die. And you know what? It would be a blessed release. It's the Dungeon Finder! Yes, indeed. The largest form of drama in World of Warcraft ever since its inception. Unbelievable, the amount of nonsense this damn system has caused. And the worst thing about it is that I still think it's a great system. Now, we're going to be discussing the fact that there have been a selection of recent changes. Yes. Very recent changes to the Dungeon Finder system. Yeah. And it's not very good. They aren't very good, folks. They are not very good. And what I'd like to do is I want to go over these, and we'll discuss which bits are bad, which bits aren't, and also how this actually affects Blizzard's general design philosophy. And I think that's something that people do seem to always ignore, the long-term effects of a particular change. It comes down to the fact that when you make a set of changes, you have an end goal in mind. You don't just change things around for the sake of it. That's not how games companies work. That's not how any company works. Any change always has a reason. And that reason is generally quite long-term. And if you see enough changes towards a particular perceived end goal, then you can also determine whether or not there has been a major change in design philosophy. Changes in design philosophy are what cause entire expansions. An example, Wrath of the Lich King. The way that Wrath of the Lich King turned out was as a direct result of a change and a shift in design philosophy. It was deliberate. Bear this in mind. Blizzard is certainly prone to making mistakes. Yeah, they've made them quite frequently. They're generally with minor things, like, say, a balance or an ability, or a class becomes overpowered for whatever reason. Yeah, they make mistakes in that way. But when it comes to massive changes to the game, like the way that heroics were designed within Wrath, and the way that the first tier of raiding was designed within Wrath, those were deliberate. never, ever, ever underestimate Blizzard in any way, either good or bad. There are times when Blizzard can be an absolute genius, and there are times when they can do things that are borderline evil. And as I mentioned in the previous show, don't distinguish Activision and Blizzard, and don't attribute the evil things to Activision and the good things to Blizzard, because they're the same company and you can't do that anymore. Blizzard always has a plan. The problem is that that plan is not always in the best interests of what we as players want. Now, let's have a look at these changes, and then we can try and analyze exactly what it's done to the design philosophy of the game. Wow, someone actually sent me... I have to play this, if I can. Can I do it? I don't know. We'll have to see whether or not this actually works. Somebody sent me the pronunciation of that frickin' town in a WMA file. Oh, man. I will probably have to play this. I'm not going to play it right now, but I'll play it at the start of the next segment, just so that you know exactly which town I'm actually going to as I continually mangle it. Dunker and all that. Oh, wow. Right, these changes. Okay, so there are 5 major points. And these changes are coming in the next week's maintenance. So, for the US, it's going to be on the 22nd. And for the UK and EU, it should be on the 23rd. So, the first change. Players who are outside a dungeon for more than a few minutes are now immediately able to be kicked. I have no problem with that, because to me, there doesn't seem to be any excuse to be out of a dungeon for more than a few minutes. Really. You might say, oh, well, what if they forgot this? Well, 1, you should be prepared. 2, it doesn't take that long to get some goddamn reagents. You can hop out, considering you were probably in a major city when you queued anyway, hop out, grab it, hop back in, and you'll be done in about 20-30 seconds. And we're talking about a few minutes here, so one has to assume between 3 and 5, give or take. So, yes, idling outside of dungeons sucks for everyone else involved. And that, to me, is a majority rule situation. And you might think that this is a bad thing, but in video games, in my opinion, in the way that this content is designed to be cooperative content, majority rule is law. It's as simple as that. That is technically what you would class as democracy in a public space. It is a very dog-eat-dog style of democracy, but it is raw democracy. It is the majority thinks this, the minority thinks this, the majority wins. How else are you supposed to sort it out? You're not going to have a goddamn debate. I mean, come on. You're not going to have various political parties involved in a long-scale debate and legislation that runs through the House of Commons and the House of Lords 3 separate times, has various alterations, and maybe there's a referendum at the end if it's really, really damn serious over the course of 2 years. No, it's a video game. Majority rules. 4 greater than 1 and 3 greater than 2. Every time. No question. So, anything that allows majority rule to prevail, in my opinion, is a good thing. That change is a good thing, because it allows majority rule to prevail. And there is really no legitimate situation where a player would be outside of a dungeon for more than a few minutes. And you might make excuses for them, but I still will then turn around and say to you, once again, they shouldn't have been unprepared. If you're going to queue up, and you're going to do a dungeon, and you are going to hopefully dedicate the same time as everyone else to it, you do not unnecessarily hold them up by being unprepared, by being a scrub, effectively. That is bad. That is disrespectful. In fact, it is the greatest insult, as I've said before. Wasting people's time, to me, is the greatest insult. Because time is the one thing you cannot get back. Hurt feelings will go away in time. Stolen money, stolen goods can be replaced, but time can never be replaced. You're wasting somebody's time, you are taking away precious seconds of their damn life? Yeah, that's an insult and a half, isn't it? Ha ha, you're closer to death and you got nothing done. Yeah, that's bad. I view that as horrible. God, kind of half the reason I stopped reading YouTube comments. Anyway, that change is good. The second change, if queuing as a group with a tank or healer, and the tank or healer drops group or is kicked soon after joining, those that queued with them will also be removed from the dungeon. Also, as far as I'm concerned, a good change. The reason for that is that you had tanks and healers effectively selling queues. Yeah? They were selling a queue, and then they would just jump out. And you might think, that's crazy, why would they do that? But for some stupid reason, that's the case. Because people thought that, and actually I suppose this probably does work this way when you think about it. If you queue with a tank, yeah, and you get immediately into a dungeon, because of course the tank is usually the choke point situation, yeah? That is where the choke lies. If you were to look for the bottleneck in the system, it would be tanks. To a lesser extent healers, but mostly tanks. So, if you then get into a dungeon, the tank immediately jumps out. I have to assume that replacing the tank in an already active group is probably a higher priority within the Dungeon Finder system than putting a tank into a group that hasn't been formed yet. Would I be wrong in that assumption? I'm fairly sure I wouldn't be. That's not based on any facts. I'm just making an assumption as to how a system like that would probably work, and I think I'm most likely correct. So, yes, it's good that that's gone. That's BS. That shouldn't even be there. Now we get onto the bad stuff. If 3 or more players group queue with each other, it will require an additional vote for them to kick anyone they did not queue with. Now, before I go off on this, I would like to point out why it's been put in place. This should be fairly obvious to anyone with common sense, but there you go. Common sense on the internet, rarely common these days. Should be renamed. Rebranded, perhaps a relaunch of common sense, as rare as all hell sense. People like to be unique. They like to feel special. This was put in to prevent groups from kicking out people that were competing for their loot. That was the primary reason. There is a secondary reason, which is Blizzard's misguided idea that it's not okay for a group of 3 friends to gang up on other people within a group. They're of course mistaken in that regard because, once again, majority rules. I am not necessarily endorsing abusive behavior, but I am endorsing majority rules. If they decide to accompany their kick message with something extremely offensive, then that should be reported and dealt with in the normal way. But if you are the majority in a group, you should have the final say. In this case, what happens is, if 3 or more players group together, they're going to require an additional vote to kick anyone that didn't group with. So basically, they need a 4-to-1 vote. Yeah? The overwhelming majority. They need everybody else in that dungeon group to vote yes, which, as we are well aware, in a situation where you get 3 people queuing that end up with 2 other people that have queued together, it is impossible to kick any of them. Impossible. That's horrendous. Are you serious? That's really, really bad. Oh, this guy's sucking really bad? It's okay. If you suck, don't worry. Just find somebody else who sucks and make sure you queue together. Suddenly, you are immune to being kicked out by a group of 3. Of course, you're not immune to being kicked out by a group of 2, but you are immune to being kicked out by a group of 3, so you have significantly more protection than you would have otherwise. Yes. Yes. That's horrible. That's horrendous. That's terrible. God, I'm thankful that they didn't go one further and say, oh, it's 4 queued together and then there's 1 dude? Well, you need 5 votes in order to kick him. The guy who's getting kicked has to vote for himself. Wouldn't surprise me. God. Now, the next one. If a group queue of 4 kicks the 1 person that they did not group queue with, they will each receive a more severe penalty to their ability to initiate future kicks. Yeah. Oh dear. So that means that if you are a guild group, which is, generally speaking, that's what's going to happen. If you're queued as 4, the chances are you are in a guild. Why would you not be? If you have 4 regular friends, why would you not form a guild and reap the benefits? You know, just get a couple of extra people, throw them in there. Oh, suddenly free frickin' money. Why would you not want to do that? So that is aimed at guild groups. Yeah, pretty much 99% of those queues are going to be guild groups. If they kick the 1 person they didn't group with, they are going to receive a severe penalty to their ability to initiate future kicks. So apparently, there's only ever going to be 1 idiot in a group, folks. Trust me about this. You know, there's only going to be 1 idiot. Get rid of that idiot, the next guy is going to be a golden god. He'll be the best guy you've ever grouped with. He will carry you atop his rippling, oiled, muscly shoulders. Yes, indeed, he will, with his golden mane swaying in the autumn breeze, and cherubs come from the skies, playing tiny little trumpets. Yes, indeed, folks, trumpets. Let's just bring the midgets in. Why not? Just get them playing. It'll be awesome, because this guy is going to be the best guy you ever grouped with in your life. Or in reality, he probably won't be, because there's a lot of really bad people, especially if you are queuing without friends. I make an assumption that anyone who is not queuing with at least one guildie is probably not as good as people who are actually in guilds. You want to know why? Because there is a likelihood that somebody who is solo like that, or indeed who thinks it's a great idea to queue solo for dungeon content, is probably not all that great. Or indeed is not in a guild because people don't want him to be in theirs. Maybe he's too obnoxious. Maybe he's just terrible. Why would you want somebody like that? Admittedly, that is not everybody, but the chance is statistically higher for those reasons. So, you have to wait how freaking long? I mean, they don't even specify. What is it, 5, 10, 20 minutes, 30 minutes? How long do we have to wait to get rid of nub number 2 that happened to appear in our group? Once again, majority rules, as far as I'm concerned. And also, I might want to point out that anything that takes the decision-making out of the hands of the players in an artificial manner is bad. It must only be put in at a last resort. Is this a last resort situation? Maybe it is. Maybe people are saying, I will cancel my subscription because people are mean and keep kicking me out of their groups. The Dungeon Finder is this great, wonderful cash cow. You want to know why it's a wonderful cash cow? Because it allows people to access the same content as the people in guilds without having the additional effort of, you know, being able to stay in a guild without getting kicked out for being a complete and total tit. That is their cash cow. It keeps people in the game. And I do not necessarily disagree with keeping that system. Again, I say it again until I'm blue in the face. The actual Dungeon Finder as a mechanism is fine. It is one of the best things they put into the game. It is what they are then doing with it afterwards, in terms of their social engineering, that I don't like. The system was fine. It's not now, but it was fine. And then they started tinkering with it because they want to socially engineer people. You know what? If you're going to spend some time with social engineering in this game, please socially engineer people to not suck. That would be good. That's the kind of thing you should be focused on. Taking decision-making out of the hands of the players. I made a complaint in the beta, which I still believe is valid and indeed was recently addressed by a blue and will hopefully finally be changed, that the system should not be in place for those who are in a guild to restrict guildies from carrying an undergeared person into a heroic dungeon via the use of the Dungeon Finder. As far as I'm concerned, that is none of the business of Blizzard. That is the business of the guild that chooses to do it. And let's be honest, nobody walks to the damn dungeons anymore. You don't even need to now. You don't even have to discover them. They changed that with a recent hotfix. Yeah. And the 5th change we don't even need to know about, because it's a vote kick on somebody they group queued with. Pfft, whatever. Oh, I just kicked a guildie out. Enjoy the drama. So, my problem here is this. We come back to the subject of design philosophy. I see conflicting design philosophy. My conflicting design philosophy idea goes as far as to say this. With Cataclysm, they put out a very, very large glowing neon sign that everyone could clearly see from miles around that said, we want people to be in guilds now. If you are not in a guild, you are not playing optimally. You weren't playing optimally before, but you're definitely not now. Hell, you can see it in a very, very obvious fashion. And then they said, oh, well, we've got problems because we don't have any tanks in the Dungeon Finder anymore because everyone's now in a guild and they're doing things properly. So they're a victim of their own damn success. The tank stuff with the Dungeon Finder, even worse than it was in Wrath, probably as a result of the fact that they're encouraging guild play. Is that a good thing? Yeah, damn right it's a good thing. So this is what they're intending to do here. with the addition of the Luck of the Draw buff, they were trying to get people back into dungeons by saying, it'll be easier, it'll be easier. Which, to me, is rubbish. You know, it's like, oh, we wanted you to be in a guild. Oh, get out of the guild, get out of the guild! And here again, now, the same problem. You are actually penalized if you are in a guild group. Because you now can't get rid of douchebags. Or at least, you can only get rid of one. Oh, it's alright, get rid of one douchebag. The next guy will be amazing, I'm sure. No, he won't. Blizzard, have you used the Dungeon Finder ever? I have to ask. I really do. There's a reason why you put in a title called The Patient. I think there should be an additional title. Called The Patience of a Goddamn Saint. Because that's what is now required in order to use the Dungeon Finder. This is going to backfire. Because now, I see no reason at all not to queue with a full 5. At all. Because I don't want to risk my time being wasted by idiots that I can't get rid of. So, to me, this is going to cause guilds to even close themselves off more. And I'm sure that's probably what Blizzard was not trying to do. But I'm okay with it, because I think guild play should be the play anyway. Deal with it. My name is Total Biscuit. You are listening to Blue Please right here on CynicalBrit.com. I will be right back after this, folks. The question is, what will I play? Machine Eye Supremacy is just so very popular with our listeners. So here you go. A view from the end of the world.